Hey guys, gals, I wanted to go over a little bit on this Vevor electric sausage stuffer for you. I think this is actually the second biggest one they make. I think it's the biggest one they have in stock right now. It's 15 liters. That refers to the size of the stuffing bucket. I've wanted one of these a long time, an electric one. It's a little bit of a learning curve. Later in the video, you'll see us actually make a batch of sausage, kind of an abbreviated version, not really a how to make sausage course, but that way you can see the process all the way through. But I wanted to talk about some of the features of this. One is the capacity is huge. 15 liters is about 30 pounds per batch, and it's not that much work to load another bucket. So unless you really think you're going to utilize this much in one go, I would look at a smaller one. It probably is going to weigh about the same amount because the weight is probably mostly up here in this gearbox and down here in the counterweight and the base, but it would be a little smaller, a little easier to move around with, because carrying this in and out from our shop, it's a chore. The dog has to go in the box so she doesn't trip me and kill me while I'm doing it. But on this side, and Dorothy will come around in a minute, but right now she doesn't really need to. I just want to show you that you're going to bring up your squeeze plate all the way out of the bucket. And then up in here, you really don't need to see it, but there's a switch and it'll stop all by itself. So it can't break itself or anything. It's got a little pressure switch that immediately cuts it off. Once it's off, you can take your stuffing bucket out. And again, it's a pretty big stuff bucket. One thing we did learn is this elbow right here holds actually quite a bit of meat. And then there's kind of a false bottom down there. And so when it was all said and done, after we pushed the last bit of meat out with the little probe I'll show you in a second, and clean this out, we ended up with about a pound, and I'm going to use a word here that you really need to think about what I mean by it, of loss. And what I mean is about a pound of meat, 0.9 pounds, we actually weighed it, 0.912, I think is what it was. It's not lost because we ate it. We actually made breakfast with it yesterday. But it was not able to be pushed into the casing. So let's say you wanted to make 20 pounds of links, you're going to need 21 pounds of stuff to put in the bucket. If you wanted to, make 30, you need 31. It wouldn't quite fit. But you get what I'm saying. It's not a percentage. It's actually just a volume, so it's a pound. So just plan on that, and otherwise everything will be fine. The beauty of this coming off like that is, one, you can fill it and empty it really easy, but two, this makes it super easy to clean. There's really only two things that need to be cleaned on the machine, unless, like I did, you drop some meat down on the base, and that is the bucket and the plate. And the plate's really easy. It just spins off like that. And then it's got an O-ring right here. You pop that O-ring off. Make sure you look at it before you do. Basically, the groove goes up, but you want to know that. You're never going to get it clean without pulling this the O-ring off. Take the O-ring off, clean the plate, let everything dry, put it back on, give it a little coat of oil like olive oil or some other food grade oil so that it maintains the seal. It's got a pressure valve in it, actually two of them. And that way, when you're pushing down, air can get up and out from the top. So it doesn't start pushing the meat out until it actually makes contact with the meat. That's really nice. That's about it. The rest of it, you don't really have to worry about cleaning because, like I said, unless you do something wrong, the meat never makes contact with any of the rest of the machine. One thing to be aware of, if you look up here, here's the height of our ceiling fan blade, right? And this drive beam is pretty damn tall. And I believe if this thing was sitting out here, it would hit that ceiling fan. So just be aware of your upper workspace with it. I do want to talk a little bit about the stuffer tube issues that I had. So it comes with 15, 21, 30, and 37 millimeter tubes. This is a 21, this is a 30. Yesterday I used collagen casings, and then later in the video you're going to hear me say over and over the word synthetic, correct myself and do it again. Synthetic casings are totally different. That's the stuff you peel off like ring bologna or something like that. What I used in the video, and later in the video that you're about to see, is collagen casings. It's made out of beef. It's the same thing that if you take collagen peptides and mix it in your coffee, you would be eating. So there's nothing wrong with eating it at all. Anyway though, 32 millimeter synthetic tube, collagen tube, should just fit straight over the stuffer. It didn't. This is the smaller one, significantly smaller. And I still had to kind of unwrap it to do it, because you want to use, when you're stuffing sausage, the biggest tube that the casing will easily fit on. That just makes everything easier. This is the next smallest one. That would have just fit on there. I really didn't want to go down to that. And then, so this is like a snack stick size supposedly. And this is like your ring bologna that you would be stuffing like a synthetic or like a summer sausage or something. I actually think it'd be great to have a tube here, kind of in this mid-range between these two, where you could just use those collagen casings, and then one a little bit smaller. Here's the good news. Everybody with these, like Vevor brand or Haku brand or something like that, always like, where do I get parts? This is all industry standard. You got your finger on one of the lenses? Sorry. All right. You would have noticed it if it was a problem. Anyway, it's all standard sizes. So a plate like this, I don't know how this would ever go bad, but you can get a plate of this size. You can certainly get an O-ring of this size. When it comes to these tubes, all you have to do is measure the flange, and these are standard. Feed tubes are standard. This is a butchering industry, so everything's a standard. This is a 2.05 base. All you gotta do is measure it. You don't need calipers. I mean, you can measure it with a ruler, and whatever is closest looking to what's available will work. All these do, this flange twists off, that goes through there, and it attaches inside there on there. So there's no problem getting parts. That's the same like the meat slicer from Vevor. It's a 10-inch blade. You can get them for 80 to 90 bucks if you ever need to replace the blade. So just know that with a lot of this stuff that comes out of the butchering industry, etc., that you can always get parts. If Dorothy would come around, I'll go over a little bit of how it works, and then I'll go ahead and put it back together. Y'all don't need to watch that. But come over here, hon. And I'm gonna put my thumb over this indicator light here. One thing to know about this says there's power to the unit. It does not mean it's on. So just because you have that light doesn't mean you actually have it on. Know that so that you don't think maybe your machine's not working. Your foot pedal is like a sewing machine pedal. It's on or it's off. It's not a speed control, and it only works for the downward motion would be the only time you need it. The upward motion, when you turn it on, it will simply raise up until it can't raise up anymore. And I imagine you could create a problem for yourself if you let it run with what I just did there, because since the plate's not there, there's no stop. So let's bring her back down a little bit. And when I go to down, you'll notice that nothing happens. You have to use the foot plate to bring it down, which is nice. The speed that's moving at, you do not want to try to stuff at that speed. What I figured out, and again, I have to close this so I can see with my one bad eye where the hash mark is, and I think what I'm gonna do is about that speed right there is about where I was working with it. I'm gonna put a little dot of white paint on that knob just so it's easier to see with that little red light. That red light just blares in your eye, and that hash isn't that great. But see, like I say, it's on or off. And one thing to watch, if you can come here, hon. Like over here. Like where my fingers. Watch what happens. When I push this down, it lags a second. Now watch when I let go. It keeps moving a little bit. That's actually gonna push out about that much meat, that little lag before it stops. So like the first stuff I did, I ended up overstuffing quite a bit because I didn't realize that was gonna happen. This is a learning curve to this. Sausage making is a science and an art at the same time. But man, this is a great machine. Let me see if there's anything I missed. Oh yeah, they do give you this. This is really, really handy. What this is for is when you're done and there's no more meat in the bucket, the stuffer bucket, to push out, and you have that stranded stuff. These push straight through and clean that tube out for you. And if you had a tube that was like 3/4 full or half full or whatever, you probably could have somebody manually stuff that last bit of the tube. Otherwise, it's probably worth just throwing in. And that 0.9 pounds did include this tube being full. We just didn't think it was worth trying to get. We were down to the bottom of our cases. So I will include in the write-up links to where you can get additional tubes if you want them, but this will work for anything that you really want to do. And remember, there's always links in my videos about products like this where you can support me by using them, and there's a discount code. You can get another 5% off this machine right here or anything that Vevor makes. Hey guys, Jack here. I want to do a review of this Vevor electric sausage stuffer. This is the 15-liter model. This part of it's going to be really short. This will be edited in where I talk about all the features of it. I just want to kind of show you guys it working and let you know, like, this is my first time using this machine, but I've had good results with it so far. These are synthetic cases, and I'm more familiar with using, let me try to get one of my 5-link sets. I'm more familiar actually with using natural casings, but I had these. They were easy to order, so I wanted to give them a shot. You do need to tie off the ends of these with string because they will not hold a twist. I have used them before, so we're gonna do our best. One thing with, especially with these synthetic, or they're not even synthetic, they're collagen casings, so they are natural. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, that means it's like some kind of weird chemicals or something. This is made out of beef. If you use collagen peptides, where you mix it into water or your coffee or something, you're doing that for your skin or your joints or whatever, it's the same stuff. So there's nothing wrong with it, totally edible. But you do want to leave a little bit of space. You want to do that with natural casings as well. But you almost want to feel like it's a little bit understuffed when you're using these. This unit is really awesome. It's got power, it's got speed adjustment from like 0, where it doesn't even move, up to 100. At 100, you're gonna be like Lucille Ball with the chocolates or something. You cannot keep up with it. I've got it basically at the lowest setting where it'll still move, which is right about 10. It's got an indicator light, and honestly, to see it, you gotta put your thumb over it to be able to look and see where the tack is, because the red light hits you in the eyeball. It's got a foot pedal. Maybe Dorothy can come around here real quick and show how this setup is. And so it's got a foot pedal for advanced. I don't want to click that yet. Power, this is for your foot pedal right here. Run and off, and then this is your forward or reverse to pull things back up. Again, I'll do a full tour on it. And another thing I wanted to point out, as Dorothy gets back around the other side, is these stuffer tubes. This is a 32 millimeter tube, and it's 32 millimeter casing. And you would think that casing, these synthetic casings, what's supposed to make them so easy is they just slide right on, and you always want kind of the cup side pointing out when you're doing that so that they'll fall out. It wouldn't work, so I had to like individually funnel it onto the stuffer tube, tie off the end again with string, because unlike a natural casing, it's not going to hold twist for you, especially there. So what I'm going to do now is start advancing it, and let's see if I've got the speed right. And when you first do it, okay, go up a little bit. You want to be real, yeah, I can, there, okay. I'm gonna go down a little bit. I don't want to do Lucy and Ethel. It'll take a second before it starts to really roll, and then it starts to go really fast. And what you want to do is you want to let it run out. Again, like I said, you want it a little bit understuffed looking. That might be a little more understuffed than it needs to be. I'm still getting a feeling for this. I've only ever used grinders with attachments and manual stuffers, so I'm not real good on this electric thing yet, but man, it is fast. Dorothy and I made a batch a couple of years ago using our grinder with an attachment, and it took us probably 3 times as long to do that much sausage. And that was with 2 of us. I'm doing this, you know, I've been doing this on my own. And that's what's beautiful about the electric. And you can see that's probably a little bit fuller, but since it'll kind of equalize as we link it out, it won't really matter. But it's probably a little fuller than you want it. Little gaps there and here and there. Again, when we link it, it won't matter. See how much we've made already. And you control how it gets stuck by how fast you let it come off the tube. And since I push that on there, I want to loosen that because the tension will actually cause it to overstuff. But man, and I think I'm already getting better at it, and this is my first batch. I only made 12 pounds in this batch. This might be the last tube. I might have to do one more load up. But I think as you get better, you can turn the speed up, and you can probably run this. I don't think anybody, I don't care if you're like a master sausage maker, I don't think you're gonna run this at full speed. I think that's just really for pulling the plate back up out of it. And I'm not gonna say that the first time you do it, you'll be able to do it this good, even as I'm still learning to deal with the automation, because I have done this my whole life. But, and there is something about the tactile feeling of a manual stuffer. Just kind of getting a feel for what I'm doing there. Dorothy's laughing because she knows what it looks like.
I'm sorry.
See, and I had a gap there, so what I did is I held onto it and let it push a little bit into the casing. Because you're gonna see, even as loose as this, and I might be getting toward the end here. Getting really close. One thing you need to watch with this is, and we'll go ahead and, if this is the end, we'll go ahead and pull it out. You gotta watch for things like ceiling fans. This thing, when this comes all the way up, it's gonna be about that high in the air, so just watch what's above it. Let's continue as Dorothy giggles. I'm supposed to be the one that acts like a teenager. One thing you can do, and I might get one if I keep making large amounts of sausage, which I probably will, because I think we'll be making different sausages for the workshop this year with this machine, is get a Lazy Susan, because then you can kind of coil it and you're not having to chase it. Boy, she's just, really, man, you're up there with like David Sigler right now on childish behavior, honey. I'll take a little bit more into the end of that, and then, man, I think we are so close to the end of that. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tie the end off with some butcher's twine. If this was a natural casing again, I would just twist it off. I can't believe she didn't giggle to twist it off. She is now. She's pretending she's not, but she's giggling.
Trying to control myself.
She's trying to control herself. So, now I've seen people do all kinds of things where you do like twist, 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 and whatever. I try to be really careful with the synthetic casings. Again, I don't have as much experience with them. Everybody says they're easier. I actually find them easier to work with in the beginning, but when it comes to dealing with your linking, I actually find the synthetics, because they stretch a little bit better. But what I want to do is I want to figure out about how long I want to go, and you see in here,
those look good.
You know, they're about a spread of my hand, about like that. So that'll give me the place. And then I want to pinch this and twist. And you can see how that's much tighter now than it was. And then I'll go here, and that one's a little short, so I'll go a little bit longer. But this makes it really easy to make them uniform. And I'm pinching that off, pinching it off, and then twisting it, and then give it a little space, turn it over again. And I like to make 5. And the reason I like to make 5 is because that's about as many as I can hold in my hand and twist like this. And again, I'm all about the twist this way, twist that way, twist this way thing that you can do with the synthetics. I mean, with the natural casings. I don't find that works very well with this synthetic. So this is the method that I've come up with. I don't try to be really fast. I just try to make really good tasting sausage. And so we're gonna go ahead and give that a twist. And then one more. And we'll push a space in there. And that way you can see that by leaving it a little bit loose, there's place for the rest of the meat to go. And again, maybe I'll do a video series that's like full on how to make sausage, where I get a little bit more into the technique. But you can see, even though I went kind of loose, you can see it's tight like a balloon, and we'll talk about how to deal with that in a second. I'm gonna get a piece of twine. And some people will actually, with the synthetics, will tie each individual link. Bluntly, I just don't care that much. Good tight tie though. Cut that one a little short, try not to be wasteful, and it's just not as easy to do that. And then I'm gonna pinch some space in here, pushing the meat down the casing a little bit. And you can see, everybody says the synthetics are really weak casings. They're quite sturdy. They stand up pretty well. Now this is what's called a fresh, and I keep saying synthetic, collagen, fresh collagen casing. And these are really designed not for smoking your sausages. These are actually gonna get smoked. I'll talk about that when I get done here. And then, okay. And then that little gap in there, that's where I'll just snip it with the scissors. And then I've got another 5 pieces of sausage. Now what I'm gonna do is take a toothpick. They make a little special tool for this, but just give a couple little air holes. That'll let some air out. And then if you were to, you'll read about this. If you were to take this and hang, like just make a huge amount of this and hang it in a like cold smoker and smoke it, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come back and you're gonna find all your sausage in a pile on the floor, because these casings are not made for doing that. They're a little bit thinner, they're easy to bite through. If you wanna do a hang smoke, you wanna use a different collagen casing that's made for smoking. But if you're gonna put this like on a grill and lay it horizontal, they're just fine. You just wanna make sure you don't get them too hot so they don't open up and blow on you. And that's it. That's 5 links. ready to go. Now, those could be cooked fresh. They could be simmered in like a beer broth type thing, and then browned off. They could just be thrown on the grill. They really need to go in here and sit in the refrigerator for a day or two before you do anything else with them. Now, this particular sausage, this is a apple sage sausage that I made for my wife, who's still like, meh. She's like, I only like sausage a little bit, but I thought it was really good as a fresh sausage. It'll be better once it's smoked a little bit. The recipe for this will be published with the review and everything you can look up, and 5% off anything you buy at Vevor, and where to get this and all the different sizes, and the manual ones as well will be in a link in the video notes below, along with the discount code and everything else like that. So next up, we'll give you kind of a walkthrough of the whole machine itself, but I just wanted you to see the machine work. Okay, here's what we ended up from that batch. It's about 11 pounds, even though I made about 12. And I learned something that it's important to note. It's not a bad thing, it's just something you should know. That stuff is so huge that the bottom where the tube bends around is a fairly large cavity between what was left there, what was stuck on the plate, and what came out of the tube that wouldn't press. And you probably could manually, like, have somebody, there's a plunger that comes with it, you could manually probably get one more link out of it if you really wanted to. It was about 0.9 pounds. So if you have a specific amount of sausage you want to end up with in link form, you need to take about a 1 pound loss into account on the amount that you make. Now, it's not gone, it's not wasted, it's just not a link. You know, we'll cook it up in a pan and eat it. We made a little test batch of it yesterday, so we probably made up a 1/4 pound. So we're probably like looking at like about 10 3/4 pounds here. Of course, the apple added in. Now, what I'm doing is an indirect heat tuber smoke. So these are Traeger pellets. I'll just blow that out. We get a good smoke billowing from it. I've got one burner on the gas grill. Don't know if you can see. Yeah, right there you can see down in there. I got just one burner all the way to one side, smoker tube, and then a little hack if you're gonna do this to just make your life easier. See down there? Those are aluminum pans, those disposable aluminum pans. Any grease strip, probably not 100% of the grease strip because they only can cover so much, but 3 of those, like the smaller pans, but not the half size, like the, I don't know, they're like 5/8 size of a full pan, fit in this grill, and this is a big grill, this is a 6 burner Weber, fit fairly well under there. You have to kind of finagle them a little bit, but that way any drip is gonna get caught instead of being down there on my burners and stuff the next time I use the whole grill. We've got a good smoke billowing now, so let's just shut her down. And this will be a long process. This won't be like a smokehouse thing. This will be, I want to basically get them cooked really, really slowly. I want them to get up to temperature to where they're fully cooked. That way when I vacuum seal them and put them away, when we bring them out, all you gotta do is throw them on the grill and bring them to temperature and they'll be ready to go. So I'm gonna be looking for a temperature somewhere around 200 to 250 degrees. It's a little higher than a cold smoke and a little lower than a hot smoke. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna let these things come up to temperature really fast. And by just keeping an eye on them and giving them, if they start to really swell, give them little pricks and letting some of the air and the expanding fat out of them, they will be able to not rupture. Because again, I used a fresh sausage, a fresh collagen casing on these, so they're really not intended for smoking, but I'm gonna tell you, I've done it enough times, it works just fine if you take your time and you do it right, and do not hang them. You notice here, let's say I had double this amount. What I would actually do is I'd actually put a couple bricks down and throw a couple grates across and bring up a second level. That's how I would handle that. So as long as they're laying flat like this, we shouldn't have any explosions, and we'll catch you later with more results. So about 20 minutes in, we're sitting right at 205 with the one burner, or 225 with the one burner on high. I actually did open it, which I shouldn't have done, just out of instinct, so it dropped a little bit, a few degrees. But if we stay in the 225 to 250 range, I'm gonna pretty much leave it alone for several hours. And one other little hack, right? So what I've noticed, it's kind of like when I throw seed, wind comes out of nowhere. So when I do this, wind blows. And no matter what side I put the wood chips on or the wood pellets on, it seems like the wind will blow counter to my best interest. So what I started doing, I just take a little piece of aluminum foil and I plug this hole up. This is a hole for a rotisserie to go across. And that leaves only that hole open. So without air coming through, let's say this way, which is exactly what it will do. It's not doing it now, but it would totally do it if I didn't plug that hole. you already have like a convection thing, heat moving toward cold. And so you're already kind of going in that direction, but that way we keep the smoke wafting across the sausages. So we'll go a couple hours probably before I open it up and show you what's inside, because I know right now we're good and I don't want to disturb the temperature. Okay, we're about an hour and a half in right now. You can see when I leave it alone, you end up just a hair over 250 degrees, which is kind of a perfect temperature in my opinion for smoking like this. Let's see what we're looking like. Nice color starting to form on the sausages, and you can see here that color is mainly forming on the top side of them. And obviously they're not that hot yet because I can pick them up with my hands, but they are definitely getting pretty heated up, and you can see that they're expanding. And this is why, like I said, when I was stuffing them, especially if you're using synthetic cases, you want to underfill just a little bit to allow for this expansion. And as I also said, they tell you can't smoke these fresh collagen casings because they'll come apart. But I'm here to tell you that if you do it right, they're wrong. Smoking is just a form of cooking. Just don't hang them in a smoker. I'm going to get these flipped over so they get color on the other side, get it closed back down, and keep going. Okay, we're about 3 hours in. I should have a lot of wood pellets left, but if you can look, I do not. And something happened here that doesn't usually happen, but occasionally happens. You can see probably about right here is where it happened. These pellets actually went into open flame, and that actually probably made the sausages taste pretty good. I want to get a internal on 163, 167. Let's come over here and check this guy. 148, 153, 143. Okay, so you can see obviously these links here, they were much closer to where that caught on, have a higher temp. I am not ready to call the cook yet with some of this stuff still in the 140s. I have no problem eating pork at 140 degrees. Only people that are nervous nillies that listen to everything the government says do that. People have been eating pork cooked that way for millennia, and it doesn't kill anybody. And you're not going to get trichinosis if you cook your pork to 140. But these are smoked sausages. I want to bring the temperature up a little higher. Since I'm by myself, I don't want to do this like trying to hold the camera and do it. But what I'm going to do is and I've been doing this, I'm going to move these links on this side all the way to here and shift everybody down. I'm going to cut my heat all the way down to minimum. And I'm going to let it go another couple hours on what's left of that smoke. I probably got an hour and a half of smoke there, assuming it doesn't catch fire again. All right, guys, I'll catch you at the end of the cook. All right, so we're done on the grill, and here's one of our lonely sausages at the end. And I went with a really coarse grind on this, actually like the wagon wheel bit that you use for like chili grind. And kind of getting more into the kielbasa. And I was a little bit worried about having a crumble, but as you can see, we have a nice good bind. I didn't use any binder, no dried milk or carrot fiber or anything like that. As you can see, this idea that you can't smoke a natural casing is just wrong. It's just a matter of you can't hang it and do that. And like I said, you can see there's some pretty large mince on the meat there, and then you can see the garlic and the fennel and everything else in there. Let me give this a taste. So we tried this as a loose sausage, and I always recommend you do that. Just fried in the pan. That's 4 times better. Once it's smoked, linked up and all. That's fantastic. It's got a little bit of heat in it. And I can tell you, I'm like, where's the heat coming from? There was some black pepper. Again, the recipe is in the link below in the video notes. But it's not the pepper. That's the garlic. So we used whole garlic cloves in this. And there's a little bit of bite from that garlic coming through. And you don't really get it when you do it like as a pan-fried sausage, but with the smoke it comes out. And then the apple is way more fruit forward with the smoke. This is a mesquite smoke. And again, if you look at it, it's a light smoke. So even though it went about 4 hours in total since it was a tube smoker, it just barely has a hint of a smoke ring. And a nice color on the outside. This is a fantastic sausage. Probably not the best sausage I've ever made. I've got some other recipes I'll be releasing soon that are pretty badass. Like a brisket sausage with brisket and jalapeno with a dry brisket rub and a hickory smoke. But this is good. I will probably make a huge batch of this and be serving it at the fall workshop. I don't know if I'll do it on reception night or I'll do it on the Saturday big meal. I might do it for the Saturday big meal because it's really good. And we'll take all of this and we'll go ahead and vacuum seal it. So that's kind of how I store sausage, 5 links to a package. If you ever wonder why do they do 5 links, they're about 0.2 pounds each. So it's right about a pound per package. And with that, it's an awesome machine, awesome sausage. You guys should get one.